Piero Gasperini isn't really who you think he is.
Se l'ho detto prima della pausa di ottobre, la Roma è prima in classifica, che avrebbe...
Vabbè, sappiamo tutti che siamo all'inizio, però pesante, anche perché siamo riusciti a ribaltare una partita dopo essere andati in svantaggio.
Good flick, it drops the Soulé. Well, we've seen two very good goals. Flicked on, and it's buried by Cristante.
He's different than the rest, and that's why he revolutionised Italian football for good. You don't believe us? Well, stay till the end to understand how he exactly did it. Now let's start from the very beginning. Gasperini is an infusion of not one, not two, not three, but maybe even 4 different managerial cultures. The best of 4 worlds, a combination of high risk, high reward mentality, discipline, aggressiveness and system. That was evident during his super successful period at Atalanta, and now is also seen with Roma. But before we get to the intriguing part, let's provide some context. Roma currently have 15 points out of a possible 18 ahead of the October international break. An impressive start, given that Roma have failed to accumulate 15 out of 18 in each of the last 10 seasons. In fact, we have to go way back to the 2014-15 campaign to find the last time Roma lost only once in their first 6 games of the season. Yes, that may change because they play Inter in round 7, but it's fair to say that Gasperini has brought his magic from Bergamo to the capital. So you might ask, what makes him so special? Well, he's taken the best ideas from 4 of the best managers of the last 40 years, 2 of whom peaked in the 1990s and 2 of whom are still ruling European football. The first idea he took was from Louis van Gaal and turned it into his own. The Dutch manager, who is now at the end of his coaching career, was one of the people who modernised the famous idea of total football, created by the legendary Rinus Michels and then popularised by Johan Cruyff. Van Gaal based his team's functioning on versatile players, movement, positional exchanges and adaptive formations. His Ajax teams in particular demonstrated that every outfield player could perform different roles depending on the phase of play. Defenders could move forward, midfielders could drop back and forwards could rotate. Specifically, he won 3 titles and 1 cup with Ajax and played in back-to-back Champions League finals, winning one in 1995 and losing one in 1996. What's important, however, is that Gasperini himself has said that in the 1990s he watched Dutch football and was impressed by teams playing with 3 at the back, an approach less common in Italy at the time. This prompted a shift in Italian football towards more flexible formations, such as a 3-4-3 that can morph into a 3-5-2, a 3-2-4-1, or a 3-4-2-1 depending on the situation and opponent. A quick example of this is Roma's formation against Lazio in the Derby della Capitale, a 3-4-1-2 with Angelino and Divine Wrench as wingbacks, Bergerson and Soulé as strikers, and Lorenzo Pellegrini as the sole creative midfielder. 2 weeks later, in another game against a formidable side, Fiorentina, Gasperini opted for more creativity in midfield. That's why he chose Baldanzi and moved Soulé back slightly, relying on a single striker, Artem Dovbyk. He also started with a different pair of fullbacks, selecting Tsimikas and Wesley. So overall, the cornerstones behind this philosophy, regardless of the tactical formation, are the wingbacks, who are essential for providing width, the overall quick off-the-ball movement and the trio of defenders who are expected to contribute to the build-up. And going back to the examples against Lazio and Fiorentina, Gasperini started with the exact same trio of centre-backs, Ndicka, Mancini and Zeki Celik in both games, meaning that they'll be the usual suspects at the back. Louis van Gaal was the inspiration behind the back 3 formation, but who influenced the high defensive line that's contributed so much to Atalanta's success over the last 9 years? The answer is Arrigo Sacchi, one of the keystones of modern Italian football whose influence can still be seen in the Gasperini style. Over 2 years ago, one of Gasperini's brightest pupils, and as irony would have it, his successor at Atlanta, Ivan Juric, said that like Sacchi, Gasperini transformed football as well. Arrigo Sacchi burst onto the scene at AC Milan in the late 1980s, completely changing what was expected in Serie A. Rejecting the defensive strategies of his time, he introduced a system based on zonal marking, team pressing, compactness, and tight coordination between all players. Instead, he introduced a 4-4-2 system based on zonal marking, team pressing, compactness, and tight coordination between all players. However, his most notable innovation was the high defensive line. This century, there have been some notable examples of coaches implementing this style. These include Guardiola at Barcelona, Mourinho at Porto, Klopp at Liverpool, and most recently Flick at Barcelona. The idea is to keep the defensive line high and narrow the distance between defenders and attackers. Sacchi famously insisted that the distance between the last defender and the first attacker should be no more than 25 meters. This keeps the team compact and makes transitions fast. Now, here comes another important influence on Gasperini. But before we reveal it, let's talk about something huge that came from the current Roma coach and absolutely changed the way people saw Italian football as a whole. We all know that Italian Serie A has always been seen as a defensive league. Well, after Gasperini's attacking brand of football made such a big impact on the league, everyone started focusing on buying attackers and only then thinking about defense. This is exactly what Gasperini expressed in a recent interview. Before, everyone bought defenders first. People questioned me at Atalanta for years, but when we got Zapata, we made Champions League football. When we got Charles de Catalara and Scamacca, we won the Europa League. Juventus had 3 strong strikers and they still bought another 3. Napoli added 3 attacking players as well. Inter have 4 strikers who are of a top level, and that's where they spent their money. When you have strong strikers, you have more fun. This is probably the sign that the calcio is changing. Moving on from Sacchi's compact defensive to attacking transitions, the next major influence on Gasperini's career is Jurgen Klopp, particularly his focus on what happens immediately after losing the ball, the counterpress or Gegenpressing. An important disclaimer, yes, Klopp is more than 10 years younger than Gasperini, but that doesn't mean the Italian can't learn from a younger manager, right? Because even though Klopp is younger, he started his managerial career earlier than Gasperini, at Mainz in 2001, while Gasperini made his managerial debut with Crotone in 2003. So, Klopp's philosophy sees the movement of turnover as a chance, not a crisis. His teams at Mainz, Borussia Dortmund and Liverpool strike immediately after possession is lost, trying to win the ball back up high the pitch before opponents can reorganise. Okay, now let's put those principles in context using stats. According to FOTMob, Roma is the second most aggressive team in the Serie A this season, winning the possession in the final third 5.2 times per match on average. When it comes to winning the ball in the midfield, Roma are first by a mile, winning the ball back a shocking 143 times in 2025-26. Now, let's see how Atalanta have been doing the last couple of years in this regard. Last season, third in this metric. 2023-24, second. 2021-22, second. 2020-21, first, and so on. You understood the narrative. Regardless of the team or the players, Gasperini's football is always leading to more aggression, more risk, and more goals, and subsequently more entertainment. However, what happens when Gasperini's team wins the ball back following a high press? Unlike most counter-pressing teams who play direct football when in possession, such as Klopp's Liverpool or Flick's Barcelona, Gasperini emphasises possession, building from the back and controlling the tempo. Roma and previously Atalanta strive to play out from defence, using short passes to draw in opponents and then exploit space with switches and overloads. And who's the master of the possession-based game? Guardiola, of course. Like Pep, Gasperini's teams value ball retention, not just to dominate possession stats, but also to construct attacks methodically. His wide centre-backs often move forward to overlap or act as extra outlets, in a similar way to how Guardiola uses full-backs, inverted defenders in build-up play. Now, breaking everything down, there's an interesting paradox. Overall, Gasperini's football has always been about conceding a respectable number of goals, but compensating for this with effectiveness in attack. However, judging by the raw stats, this season with Roma has been completely different. Surprisingly enough, the Giallorossi have the joint worst attack out of the top 10 teams in the table. But at the same time, they also have the best defence in the league. They've conceded 2 goals in 6 games, as only Milan have conceded 3, and no other team has conceded fewer than 5. Still, it's too early to draw conclusions, but as we said at the start of the season, Gasperini's Roma is one of the most exciting things in Serie A in 2025-26, and perhaps it's time for us all to give him the recognition he deserves. And the tricky part, his football is impacting the Italian national team and how we perceive which players are world class. Click on the next video to watch the tier list of all the current Italy players, in which we rank them from get him out of the national team to top 10 in their respective positions.